at Loquat Cooks. If you're enjoying the videos that we're putting together, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a follow on Instagram. Today we are making a personal favourite of mine, lemon drizzle cake. Nice and simple little cake to make. What you're going to need for this is 175 grams of butter, 175 grams of caster sugar and 175 grams of self-raising flour. Standard cake mix 1 to 1 to 1. We're going to use 3 eggs for this one rather than quite often you'll use 2 with this sort of mix. So I have the butter and the sugar all together in here now. The butter's been out for a few hours, chopped up to soften. You're going to get on much easier if you do that first rather than getting it straight out the fridge, because you could quite easily make a mess. So the first thing to do is to cream the sugar and the butter together using your hand mixer. That'll take a couple of minutes, so I'll just get on with that. Okay, so that is our butter and sugar creamed together. You can see there that's all nicely mixed and it's nice and soft in there. Best thing to do is to start off your mixer nice and slowly, and as the butter breaks down then start to slowly increase the speed. Like I say, otherwise you'll probably make a mess. Now we want the zest and juice. Well, we're going to use the juice later, but what we want now is the zest of 2 lemons. I've got myself a little zesting grater here, but if you've got a normal sort of 4-sided grater, it's the smaller one, not the one that you would grate Parmesan cheese with rather than the bit you'd grate cheddar cheese with. And we just want to stick all the zest into this mix now. Okay, so that's the zest of the lemons added, and now we want to add the eggs, but you want to add the eggs 1 by 1. So crack your first egg in there, and then just get it all out. Just get it all out, there you go. And then nice and slowly, turn your mixer on nice and slowly, and just give it a mix until that first egg is all incorporated in. There you go, it doesn't take long. And then add the next egg and then the next egg. Don't add all 3 together, even though it might be tempting. You just run the risk of splitting the mixture and, you know, you'll just end up in tears. So, okay, so we've got our eggs mixed in there nicely, and we're going to add the flour and a little bit of salt. Most recipes will say a pinch of salt. I've never been much into a pinch of salt. There's not a lot of point. I think it was it Donnie Brasco where it was, now we're talking. I think it was Al Pacino in Donnie Brasco said about a punch of salt, which is like a punch of salt rather than a pinch of salt. That's what I always go for, a punch of salt. And then we're going to sift our self-raising flour. Important to do this first. Don't just think that it's going to mix in, because if there is some clumps in the flour and it gets wet, you're not going to get those clumps out just by mixing it. It's going to take a long time. So you're not exactly wasting too much time. If you see, that's me sifting all the flour through. And we're done with the mixer. Now we fold this in. So I believe I've already done a video, and you might have seen it already, where I'm folding it in, when I'm folding in a mixture, and that's essentially just move the tin against the way that you're turning until you get to a point where you can't see the flour anymore and it's all in the mixture. And you've got one nice cake mixture together. Not a million miles away from there. It's a nice and simple recipe, does not take long. Forgot to mention earlier, we've got our oven heating to 170 behind me. Okay, so that's our cake mixture all. You can see there, one big clump. You can't see any loose flour in that mix now, and that's ready to bake. So recipes that you'll pick up online will usually say for a lemon drizzle to use a loaf tin, and I often do use a loaf tin, but today I'm going to use a springform cake tin. Now, if you're going to use a loaf tin, 2 ways of doing it. Either line the tin with greaseproof paper, baking parchment, or grease it using usually butter, but you could use an oil if you like. I prefer to grease it simply because I believe you cook the cake better without the baking parchment lined, because it doesn't conduct the heat as well. However, if you do use baking parchment, it is much easier to get the cake out of the tin. Now, what I have done with my springform cake tin, different way of doing it, is that it's got a separate base, and I've lined the bottom with baking parchment, clamped the brace over the top, cut back the baking parchment to suit. All I'm going to do is just get that, stick it in the cake tin, get it all out. There we are. Get it all off your spoon. And then just get it evened out around the sides. It's easier with the loafing, so you can normally just give it a wobble and it fills the gaps. It's kind of doing that now as well. Like that. There you are. It doesn't need to be perfect because the cooking process will even your mixture out nicely. So just get it all in there. Make sure there's nothing left in your tin. There's a little bit left in your bowl. There it is, and then we're going to whack that into the oven. That's going to take 45 to 50 minutes at 170. What I would suggest is, and if I think back, I think it's my banana loaf recipe. We'll check it again after 40 minutes, and we'll do the stab test with the skewer and see whether it's cooked. That's the best way of doing it. And then we have to prepare our topping for the lemon drizzle. Right, so I did put the cake in for 40 minutes. I checked it after 40 minutes, and it clearly wasn't done. So I stuck it back in for another 5. And it's just come out now. So we're going to do that skewer test that we did with the banana loaf. I'm going to go in 45-degree angle right the way in, and we're just going to pull it straight back out. What we're looking for is no cake left on the skewer, and there's a tiny crumb left on that, and by that I'm going to accept that that is cooked. What we're going to do now is we're going to leave it cool for a little while before we put the topping on. Okay, so our cake has now cooled sufficiently to put the topping on. We've kept a hold of the skewer from earlier, and what we're going to do now is we are going to make an absolute pincushion out of the top of this cake. Just go mad. Think about somebody or something that you don't like, or something that hasn't gone your way and this is you taken out. I don't know, could be anything. Oh, think happy thoughts, it's up to you. I'm not doing that right now, but just make loads and loads of holes. What I've done here is I have juiced the 2 lemons, and I have added 75 grams of icing sugar. Now, the amount of icing sugar you put in depends entirely on the effect that you wish to have at the end. If you want to have a sort of frosted crust on top, which is what a lot of people like, you want to be putting up to 200 grams of icing sugar in that mix. It'll make it much thicker. That's not how I like it. I like the juice to percolate all the way through the cake really, and not leave too much of a crust on the top. So mine is 2 lemons, the juice of 2 lemons. It's quite a lot of juice from 2 lemons, to be fair, and 75 grams of icing sugar. And there we are. So we're just going to get a spoon, and all we're going to do, it should all be mixed up in there. Yeah, it takes a bit of mixing up, so when you add the icing sugar, make sure you get it all mixed in together, otherwise you're just going to end up with lemon juice with globules of icing sugar, or lumps of icing sugar. Mine's looking okay there now, there's still a few lumps in there, but just spoon it on, And that's why I haven't taken it out of the tin yet. And it's the same if you're using a loaf tin as well. But try and get it so that it sinks into all the holes before it runs down the side of the cake. You're never going to get it perfect, but just make sure that you're not just spooning it on the middle of the cake and not around the edges as well. Otherwise you're just going to end up with a cake with a very soggy, lemony middle. It'll taste particularly lovely, but it probably won't have the effect that you want. There you go, just going to pour the rest on like that. And then you want to leave that all to sink in for about an hour before you serve it. But that there is your lemon cake. I'll take a little picture of a slice taken out of it at the end.